Hey guys, so today we're continuing to look at the merger between Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and Groupe PSA, otherwise known as Stellantis. Last video looked at all of the details about the merger, including the name change and the possible benefits and negatives for both companies going forward, so make sure to check that video out in the top right corner if you missed it. Today I wanted to make things a bit more interesting by taking a look at each brand of the merger. This merger does include 14 of them: Abarth, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Citroen, Dodge, DS, Fiat, Jeep, Lancia, Maserati, Opel, Peugeot, Ram, and Vauxhall. And my apologies if I butcher those names going forward, I just don't say them very often. So I have decided to split this video into two parts. The first one today covers the 7 brands on screen, while the second video will look at the remaining 7 brands, all just organized by alphabetical order. For each we'll check out the various models, the top vehicles sold by the brand, and the overall sales and market share, both in US and Europe depending on where they're situated. I thought this would be an interesting way to get to know some of the brands from PSA, and also check out how FCA is doing as well. And if I do talk about a vehicle, I will show the pictures on screen. So now let's begin. First up is Abarth from FCA. I couldn't find the sales figures for this brand, probably because this is just a high performance model for the various Fiats, just like the SRT brand in North America. Fiat is slowly pulling out of the North American market, so these vehicles now would be mostly found in Europe. The current Abarth models include the 124 range that are built off the Fiat Spider 124, and the 595 and 695 built off of the Fiat 500. Next is Alfa Romeo, another FCA brand. North America has the Giulia sedan, Stelvio SUV, and 4C Spider Coupe, while Europe also has the Giulia GTA Special High Performance model and the smaller Giulietta. Quadrifoglio models are also available, again those are similar to the SRT division. The European sales were dismal, down 53.48% to just 54,365, good for a tiny 0.35% market share. But the sales were even worse in the US, with just 18,292 sold, which is a 0.11% market share. If we do look at the model sales, in Europe the big 3 sellers were the Stelvio, Giulietta, and Giulia, and the same goes for the US, just without the Giulietta, as that's not sold there. The most popular vehicle in both markets was the Stelvio SUV, which has beautiful Italian styling in a world of bland SUVs, a nice turbocharged engine, and quick steering with great feel and excellent road holding. The base models start around $42,000 US, and they rise up to over $80,000 for the top end model. That would be the Quadrifoglio, which has an all-aluminum 2.9-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, good for 505 horsepower, 443 pound-feet of torque, and a 0 to 60 in just 3.8 seconds, but it does come at a hefty starting price of $82,095. The negatives for the Stelvio would be a tight cargo area, untested reliability as it's a fairly new vehicle, and a pretty cheap and unluxurious interior unless you pay up and opt for a better model. Moving over to Chrysler, their lineup is looking really thin these days, down to just 2 models. The 300 has been around since 2005 and remains mostly unchanged for the last half a decade. The Pacifica minivan got a refresh for 2021, and it's also available in hybrid format. There's also the Voyager, but apart from the name, it's really just a base bare-bones Pacifica model. Sales for the brand fell 23.49% in 2019 to 126,971, and that means a market share of only 0.74%. The 300 sold just over 29,000 units, marking one of its worst years ever for the car, so the most popular Chrysler model is easily the Pacifica, which accounts for the rest of the sales. That starts around $30,000 and rises up to over $45,000 for the more premium version. As I said, it got a facelift in 2021, and also all-wheel drive for the first time since 2004. The interior has a 10.1-inch infotainment display, along with an optional face cam. It's also powered by a V6 engine that makes 287 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. With Dodge discontinuing the Grand Caravan, I expect Chrysler to be pushing this car like crazy, and the high sales should continue. Citroen is one of the high-volume sellers for PSA, with a 4.01% market share in Europe. That meant 627,540 sales in 2019, which was an increase of 6.20% from the previous year. There are tons of vehicles in the lineup and many variations, so we will just look at the ones that had the sales figures published for 2019. That included the E-Mahari, C3, C3 Aircross, C Elise, C4 Picasso and Grand Picasso, C5 Aircross, and Space Tourer. The various C3, C4, and C5 models are definitely the most popular for the brand, each selling at least 49,000 cars. and the most popular would be the C3, selling 210,465 units in 2019. The C3 is what's known as a super mini, a very light, nimble, and small vehicle. The base model starts around $20,000 US in the UK, and that can rise up to almost $27,000 US for a better version. The power is weak by American standards. The 1.2-liter gas engine has 110 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque, while the 1.6-liter diesel engine has 89 horsepower and 159 pound-feet of torque. It's also got nice custom two-tone paint jobs and different interior themes, but it's also very cramped inside due to the size. Dodge, another FCA brand, will also be slimming down their lineup going forward. For 2019, they had the Muscle Car brothers in the Charger and Challenger, the Muscle SUV Durango, the Journey SUV, and the Grand Caravan minivan. However, Dodge will be ending production of both the Grand Caravan and the Journey after the 2020 model year, leaving the brand without a front-wheel drive crossover for the first time since 2008, and without a minivan for the first time in nearly 4 decades. Sales were pretty substantial at 422,886, which was a 7.93% decline, but it's still good for a 2.47% market share. All the Dodge vehicles held their own weight pretty good, with each vehicle selling a minimum of 60,000 units in the US for 2019. The most popular vehicle was the Grand Caravan minivan, but with that being discontinued earlier this year, the Charger will stand next in line with over 96,000 units moved, so we will talk about that instead. A vehicle like the Charger is becoming a bit hard to find, as there aren't many rear-wheel drive large sedans left, especially not with a V8. The Charger is a huge sedan with tons of room that still offers 4 different engines, 5 if you count the red-eye, 1 V6 and 3 V8 options. You can go from base model all the way to Hellcat red-eye, from $28,000 to over $70,000 US. Across the lineup, there's tons of customization options and upgrades, from Brembo brakes to blacked out hoods to wide bodies. Although it's still using a very old platform, pretty much the same one since the 2006 Charger, this thing still sells and everybody seems to want one. Shifting back to PSA, the DS line of vehicles was introduced by Citroën in late 2009, and they decided to turn DS into a standalone brand to distinguish its premium offerings from the mainstream Citroën vehicles. The name DS, which is pronounced Déesse in French, which means goddess, is intended to remind you of the very successful and very advanced 1955 to 1975 Citroën DS executive car. The sales aren't too high for this brand, 52,597 for 2019, but that did represent a quite substantial 16.23% increase. That's also just a 0.34% market share. Currently, DS has just 3 vehicles in their lineup, the DS3 Crossback, the DS7 Crossback, and the DS9, which is new for 2020. Other models such as the DS3, DS4, and DS5 have been discontinued. The most popular is that DS7 Crossback, selling 27,940 in 2019. This is meant to be a large premium SUV to battle with the likes of the Audi Q5, BMW X3, and Mercedes-Benz GLC. The price is pretty premium too, ranging from $43,000 to $73,000 if we convert the money to US dollars. The DS7 Crossback has a big distinctive front grille, high waistline, active suspension system, and a range of gas, diesel, and plug-in hybrid engine options. There's your choice of a 6-speed manual or 8-speed automatic as well. Again, the power isn't quite what North America is used to. The gas engines have between 128 to 222 horsepower, with the fastest engine taking the car from 0 to 60 in 8.3 seconds. Diesel engines are even less, with 128 to 178 horsepower, while the hybrid does combine a 1.6-liter turbo gas engine and dual electric motors for almost 300 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of around 5.9 seconds, so that's pretty good. Flipping back to FCA for the final brand of today's video, Fiat is one of the major sellers for them in Europe, moving 630,549 units in 2019, although that was 9.66% lower than 2018, and that does mean a market share of 4.03%. Fiat in the US is on the decline as the brand pulls out, down to a measly 9,200 units sold for 2019. Again, I'll only cover the cars that there were published sales data for, and group the rest into others. The US still sold a few of the Fiat 500s, 500Ls, and 500Xs. As for Europe, they do have a broader range of vehicles, including the Punto, Doblo, Talento, 124 Spider, and Tipo. The big sellers remain the 500 and the Panda, both moving over 175,000 units each. The 500 though was the best seller in 11 different European countries, and in the top 3 in another 4, so it's also extremely popular. The Panda was the overall bestseller though, with 184,027 units moved. It's a 5-passenger city car, currently in its 3rd generation. It was first introduced in 1980, so it's now 40 years old. Over the first 37 years, this thing did sell 7.5 million vehicles in total, and that figure slowly keeps rising. The current 3rd generation has been on sale since 2011. There's a front-wheel drive base model that starts around $14,000 US, a more rugged-looking Panda Cross for $17,800 US, and a 4-wheel drive Panda 4x4 starting at around $20,000 US. It's easy to drive and maneuver, but certainly not fast. The 1.3-liter multi-jet 2 diesel makes 74 horsepower and 140 pound-feet of torque, doing 0 to 60 in 12.8 seconds with a top speed of just 104 miles per hour. The 0.9-liter twin-air turbo natural power engine has 69 horsepower and 100 pound-feet of torque, able to do 0 to 60 in 14.1 seconds and top out at 101 miles per hour. And finally, the newly released hybrid is even weaker, with 69 horsepower and 68 pound-feet of torque. So that's the end of this video, guys. Remember, part 2 will be released in a few days, and that will look at the Jeep, Lancia, Maserati, Opel, Peugeot, Ram, and Vauxhall brands in the exact same format and style as this one. Hope you enjoyed taking a look through the Stellantis brand lineup and checking out what the company has to offer. What do you think about these 7 brands? Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.